And now we're moving on to Laura Pascal. She has worked for a decade in Whitehall and Westminster in policy and external affairs. She was formerly a civil servant, but now she has joined Sex Matters. So Laura is going to tell us about mass lobby on Parliament, how to do it. So thank you very much, Laura, for being here with us, and over to you.
So I'm head of public affairs at Sex Matters, which makes us sound like a much bigger and grander charity than we are. But we are, as I'm sure many of you know, a charity that campaigns on clarity about sex in language, law, and policy. So our lobby day, which we were too scared to call a mass lobby because we thought we might not get very many people turning out, turned out to be very much a mass lobby, but we called it Lobby Day. We had that on the 11th of September. The context was that there'd been a general election in the UK in July, and there was a new government, absolutely loads of new members of parliament, change of government, and just a sort of huge turnover. And the politicians of quite a lot of the parties were very at the basic levels of understanding issues around sex-based rights because of the years and years of no debate in the various political parties, particularly Labour, the Lib Dems, and the Greens are, really not anywhere near in the right place. So we had a simple message for our lobby day to bring to speak to, a simple ask for people to speak to their MP, their person that represents them, because MPs are much more likely to want to respond to someone who's going to vote for them, right, rather than someone from a charity saying, oh, can you meet me? So that, that's the broad idea behind it. The UK has something called a green card system for mass lobbies. It's quite an old-fashioned thing, and it's not done that much anymore, but we decided to give it a go. And what that is basically any constituent, anybody, has the right to turn up at the Houses of Parliament and go to the desk and fill out a green card, which is a slip of paper that says, this is who I am, this is my address, I would like to speak to my MP about X. And then that green card is physically handed to the person, to the MP, to come and meet them. Obviously, in practice, not every MP is going to be there on the day, and what we decided to do, and I'm very thankful that we did do this, given that we ended up with about 300 women and some men turning up on the day, is we tried to arrange as many meetings in advance as possible on the day. And I think what was so successful and what led to the large numbers of people coming is obviously we had a form, with some standard text, but we had in there the option to include some personal, why this matters to me, what the local relevance is, because a lot of campaign groups and charities, send these, template letters, and frankly, it just annoys the staff in people's office. It just gets kind of chucked away, but luckily, our supporters were so fantastic that they wrote really personal stuff, and we also were quite persuasive for people to keep persisting them if you don't get a response from your MP. Say, well, I'm going to be here on this date with Sex Matters. If not, can we do another time? So we were able to organise in advance a load of meetings on the day, or meetings afterwards at local surgeries, so MPs can meet their constituents in their surgeries to sort of raise their concerns. Our message was quite simple. It's our Stand Up for Single Sex Services campaign. our initial aim is to clarify the Equality Act. Obviously, in the long term, there are many, many more things that need to change. But and you may be aware there's an ongoing legal case in the UK for Women Scotland versus Scottish ministers that is going to have sort of further impact on what's going to happen with the Equality Act. But basically, we had a sort of, for our supporters, some who are very politically informed and some who weren't. We joined up with Women's Rights Network, who have great networks of women, get the message out to come along. We had a simple booklet with a series of case studies that just explaining the problem. So really, because our politicians, they're not sort of steeped in this stuff. They've got a lot going on. So just, case studies. We had case studies in health. We had a case study of lesbian dating. We had all based on real things in sort of a nicely presented booklet that supportive MPs, if we're willing, would take a photo with their constituents meeting them. Not many opted to, but some did, so that was nice. But I think the other thing is we spent quite a lot of time preparing and I was calling them lobbyists. I was like, you're all lobbyists, but I like to think of it as also an army, and we're building an army, and Lobby Day, my inbox has just been insane ever since, because there's just been a huge amount of follow-up. But basically arming people with the tools and the sort of basic asks, and explaining to their elected representative, this matters to me and this is why. We weren't asking people to go in and say, well, section S3 of the Equality Act, and this is why the Gender Recognition Act and the Equality Act conflict. We just had a simple ask, which was, this matters to me, this is why. Personal example, would you meet Sex Matters, who can explain how the law needs to be clarified? And that was our main ask. So ever since then, we have been having a series of meetings with members of Parliament from all of the major parties, sort of following up and building a kind of network and an understanding, and also building that bravery among those members of Parliament who are supportive of sex-based rights but are terrified of being cancelled. And in a former life, I was a sort of local level politician. Part of the reason I changed jobs was I was working for a lobby consultancy that worked for charities, and after some negative publicity around me being a TERF, etc., I had to leave that job and then got this job at Sex Matters. So it all worked out quite well for me. But where was I going with that? But yes, sort of arming people with a sort of simple ask, this is why it matters to me, and then sending it back to us to kind of follow up. We're really quite early days. I've only been in post since not quite a year, and the public affairs and parliamentary function is new. And in any charity, it takes a bit of time to find out who your supporters in Parliament are. And this lobby day was just hugely helpful in helping us build a bit of a database about understanding where different individuals are on sex-based rights, or where how indoctrinated they are. I've got a scale of 1 to 5, and so that we can therefore more effectively target and follow up. And the other thing I think that was really important about the day, and we did do feedback forms, and what we heard back from a lot of women was that they just really appreciated the time to get together with a whole load of, to really feel like they were doing something, and they genuinely are. We really made an impact, and coming together and meeting people. And I did some work to make sure that people were grouped with are the local people, so that, you know, and try and arrange for them to meet their MP at the same time. And so off the back of that, we've managed to, certainly in Hackney and also in Hammersmith, which is what's come out of the back of this is, you know, WhatsApp groups and people who are together now doing further lobbying of their MP or their councils. And, you know, that was just really valuable. And then also, you know, in this sort of strange world, we are, you know, people are just rather starstruck and I was in the same room as drinking with Helen Joyce, you know. So people had like a really good day out, even those people who didn't get to meet their MP and who'd sent a green card, you know, they still had a good time and you know, felt valuable. And we've encouraged them afterwards to write again and say, can I meet you at a constituency surgery? But I think, you know, as I said, it's these sort of, it's the more personal the email, the more local the example, because MPs' inboxes have become you know, very, very, very overwhelmed, and mass campaign template emails from charities are not, I don't think, effective. I think you need a personal touch. So you know, that's basically what we did. And you know, the work is still kind of ongoing from what we've started on that day. And I really want to see more and more local groups. You know, we're not doing what Women's Rights Network does. Sex Matters doesn't have local groups, but we were able, you know, because it includes, there were some men. So Hackney, where I live, I stay out of it. But, you know, they're doing a deputation to Hackney Council off the back of the group of people that they met at our lobby day, and continuing to lobby the two, oh, I think, no, we've got 4 different MPs in Hackney because of boundary changes now. But so, you know, it's about bringing people together, you know, using whatever the kind of different, I mean, I have absolutely no idea how it works in the States. I mean, I think lobbying in the States just involves loads and loads of money, doesn't it? But in the UK, we're not quite there yet. So, you know, it's really about reaching people who are interested in votes and hearing from people who care about the issue and saying it needs fixing, which was the message they needed to hear. It is what we needed to do. And then we've been able to follow up. And then Maya and I, you know, have had one-to-one meetings with these people and, you know, said, and this is how it needs to be fixed. And this is what's happening with the legal case in For Women Scotland. And you need to be thinking about this. And we do have big challenges with the change of government, because the kind of gender ideology just has captured the Labour Party much more than it has the Conservative Party. We have a leader of the opposition who's very on side, but we have a very clear message that women's rights aren't a culture war, and it's very difficult in the UK context to make sure it's not about that. So our approach at Sex Matters is we're just a normal charity. You can't call us a hate group anymore. We are registered with the Charity Commission. We take a pragmatic, you know, calm and open approach to discussion, and do that with MPs. But we, you know, we're working with constituents to help them lobby and do their own personal messages. But yeah, as I say, you know, simple ask: will you stand up for single sex services? Will you read this example? Will you meet with Sex Matters? And then if people who were more knowledgeable about, you know, specific things, you know, people who have gender questioning children and have had bad experiences, were able to speak about those things, examples. And we did a webinar the night before led by Helen Joyce, which sort of gave people that confidence. And you know, we were sort of blown away by the impact the lobby day had. I didn't sleep for about the 3 nights before, trying to arrange as many meetings in advance, and we had a huge amount of people to manage. But you know, it's definitely something worth doing. But I wouldn't underestimate the amount of the more sort of time and admin and one-to-one dealing with helping people set up meetings on the day in advance, the easier it is to manage 300 people all together in Parliament. And so those would be my sort of main kind of tips of what worked for us. But I'm really happy to take questions and sort of hear about other countries, and whether there's kind of learnings that could be taken across from our context that might be useful in other systems that work in ways I don't know. We have I mean, the UK Parliament is the mother of all parliaments, as they say, but it's still a pretty odd, a very odd, old-fashioned place, and a sort of strange way of working. But I'm having a lot of fun lobbying MPs and peers to get them to understand sex-based rights. And we're just at the start, and our army, as I say, is building, and that started from Lobby Day.